my name is Michelle Sweeny, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about learning the 5-finger patterns in each of the major keys. We're going to do that with a song called Little Playmates. Just the first 2 measures of it. So you're going up and then going down. And we're going to learn how to do this starting on any note. I want to teach you something. This works with your right hand, okay? It's called the magic 5-finger pattern. If you hold your hand out, spread out your fingers, and then glue these 2 together. See that? Can you do that with your right hand? So you're going to stick your 3rd and your 4th finger together, and all the rest are going to be spread out. I call this the magic 5-finger pattern, and what that gives you is called a tetrachord. Can you say tetrachord? Tetrachord! So, in order to play this song with any note on the piano, all you need to know is tetrachord, because if you put your thumb on any note, it can be black note or a white note, and then you use this tetrachord pattern, you can find the major 5-finger scale. It's so exciting. So what I mean is this. The notes need to have a little bit of a gap in between these spots right here. So we have something called a half step on the piano and something called a whole step on the piano. So very top of the keyboard, like way up here, you'll notice that, there are a bunch of notes next to each other. Sometimes they're black, sometimes they're white, but what we're counting when we're looking for our tetrachord are the half steps. So if you look way up here, that's going to help you figure that out. Okay, so you're going to put a half step, a whole step here, and a whole step here, and then here's going to be a half step. So let's start with C, because that's the one we already know, and talk about what it means. So here, the C is the first note, and then we're going to put our next finger a whole step away, which means that there's actually going to be a note in between those 2 fingers. So there is a black note in between these 2 fingers with this scale. And then here, there is a note in between these 2 fingers too. So to have a whole step, you've got to have a half step in between. 2 half steps makes a whole step. Does that make sense? So we have half step, so whole step, and then here, between these 2, this is where your little glue together gives you the secret to finding a major scale. You make these two notes next to each other. There is not anything in between here. No black note, no white note. It is stuck together. And then between this one and this one, it's a whole step, so there should be something in between. There should be a black note in between or a white note in between, but you've definitely got a note in between those 2. Okay. That's how you use your magic 5-finger pattern. Now, if I take that and I start on any note, I can find which black notes and which white notes I'm supposed to play to make this song sound a major scale. Okay, so let's try it with a note that's right next door, okay? Move your thumb to C sharp. C sharp is a black note. And then let's find this magic pattern. If you look up at the top, you want to have a whole step between your thumb and your 2nd finger. So there's, right now, if we're starting there, there's a white note in between there. And then we go from the 2nd finger to the 3rd finger. We want to have a whole step there, so you've got to have a white note or a black note in between the 2. There's a white note, there's E in between there. And then these 2 are the ones that are stuck together. So, right there, that is a half step. And then between 4 and 5, it's a whole step. So, we just transposed that song into a totally different key. Now that's in C sharp. You could do this with any white note, any black note, and as long as you stick these 2 together and make sure that all the rest of them have a half step in between them, so there's like a whole step here, whole step here, whole step here, and a half step here, so these ones are touching and the rest of them have another note in between them, you're going to get a major scale. So let's try it on the next note up. Let's try it on D. So if we do it on to adjust, look for that half step and whole step pattern. So in between these two, okay, there's a note in between, there's a black note in between. Between these two and up, that's where we need to shift it. So between the 2 and the 3, we had to move up to a black note so that they would be whole steps. Now, between the 3 and the 4, we want those to be right next to each other. They are a half step apart. And then between the 4 and the 5, it's a whole step. Good. And so you can use this to find all 12 of the major keys with this 5-finger tetrachord pattern. So I hope that gives you something fun to practice and play with. And ask me any questions if I didn't explain it very well so that you can understand. So that is something we can learn from Little Playmates in Suzuki Book 1. See you next time. Bye.